Now, if you look at the media everywhere, there's so much of boom in the social media.
So first is the creator needs to take responsibility.
Now, if you look at the media everywhere, we have sensation news catching up with a lot of youngsters, with a lot of the entire population. And there's so much of boom in the social media, and the growth has been tremendous over the last decade. So how should the youngsters balance this out?
The ones who are creating it and posting it, releasing it on all platforms. So they are the creator. So first is the creator needs to take responsibility. But then more than the creator, because the creator is not in my control, it is I, the consumer, who has to take the responsibility of what I'm consuming. Because what I'm consuming and then what I'm sharing with everybody else is what a lot of people will start consuming. And so very soon that will be called as normal, that this is what the world wants. And so when more of that starts getting consumed, then the creator will create even more of that kind of content. So that's simple logic. So creator is responsible of the content, but consumer is even more responsible of the content. So let's say somebody cooks a meal in which there are 3 items which are very healthy and 2 are junk food. Okay. And then there are 50 people who come for that event. And if 45 out of 50 people have the junk food and they do not use the healthy food that much, then the next time the person who's organizing the event is going to make 4 junk food items and 1 healthy food for those 5 who consumed it last time. It's very normal for that to happen. But then whose responsibility was it? More the responsibility of the consumer. So now the consumer will need to understand, why should I consume healthy content? Because tasty content, junk content seems to be more interesting, seems to be more circulating. It's natural. Junk food is always more interesting than a plate of sprouts or salads or fruits or anything that's healthy. It's tasty, it's addictive, it's stimulating, but it's not healthy. So similarly, content is of a lot of variety. Social media and all other platforms have given us a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, a lot of learning. They've made life very simple. And they've also made life more purposeful, because there is so much I wouldn't have known had it not been on this platform. It would take many lives to learn what we can learn today on just a click, So it was not possible for an individual to learn so much in their lifetime, to be able to connect to so many people, to learn different belief systems, it would have been impossible for an individual to learn it. So that is thanks to the online system and to the internet and to the social media platform. But I, as a consumer, it's my responsibility to see that I'm consuming the right information. I'm consuming the right knowledge. So for that, I just need to remember that content is my emotional diet, because what I watch, what I read, what I listen is who I become. So if I'm going to consume content which is like lust, ego, greed, criticism, aggression, violence, creating fear, nowadays creating a lot of religious intolerance, creating disharmony. And if I consume that kind of content so much, then that is what becomes my sanskar, my thought process, my belief system. And it will come into my action very soon. If I consume serials in which people are always, in conflict with each other, doubting each other, breaking relationships, breaking homes, and all the rest that happens. So if I consume that on a daily basis, then very soon I will start seeing traces of it in my own life. And for all to know that whether this is the truth, all that we need to do is go 25 years back or 30 years back and then just draw a graph of content versus state of society in terms of emotional health, mental health, physical health, and social health, that is relationships. So just draw a graph of that, and 30 years back, We didn't even know the word stress. It was just in physics. Depression was like some word we would hear somewhere, some elderly had it. Cancer was rare. All these illnesses that we're talking about were rare and more in the elderly. Divorce was very, very rare. And if it happened, people would like keep it under wraps, and because it was a stigma. And cut to today at 2023, even stress is becoming an old-fashioned word. Children today are saying, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. In student life, in a life which was supposed to be the best life, the carefree life where you have no responsibilities, they're saying, I'm stressed, I'm anxious. Post-COVID, the figure has gone much higher. You meet little children and they say, "Mujhe yahan kuch ho raha hai, mujhe anxiety ho rahi hai." So anxiety and depressed has become like a very normal word now. Of course, we've seen what's happened with physical health issues. You know best how high the numbers of cancers have gone in the last few years. Last 2 years, we've seen sudden cardiac issues. So all this is such a big shift. And divorce is common. And it is called normal. And it is like, okay, if I'm not getting anything in this relationship, I don't need to adjust. We can move on our own way. And the result of that is also in the environment. Because the more I create toxic emotions, the more I radiate that onto the planet, and the more the vibrations of the water, the air, the plants, the vegetables, everything starts getting influenced. And the more I'm emotionally depleted, the lesser happier I am. And so more I keep consuming from the world to be happy. So my power to buy and consume, I just need to constantly buy something to feel good. So again, I'm abusing the planet. So all our health, mental, emotional, physical, social, environmental, everything is affected. And it's because of who I am. And who I am is a lot to do because of what I consume. So when I understand that as my moral responsibility, I don't need anyone else to tell me what I should consume, what I should not consume. Today, we are a generation who's taking a lot of care of our physical diet. So we are very aware, ye khana hai, ye nahi khana hai, which is very good. But in spite of that, health is not getting better.
Okay.
In spite of being so aware of our diet and exercise. And last couple of years, we saw young deaths. We saw doctors coming on panel discussions in news channels, and the audience says, but so-and-so was a vegetarian, was a teetotaler, was exercising. What else? So then the doctor would say the last word as stress and lifestyle. So if that stress can create an illness and death, it should not be called normal. So the sooner we stop calling it normal, the sooner we will shift to a happier world. But content restriction will be the first step which is required in that. Even for you as a doctor, I'm sure you know the problem which comes when every patient first serves everything and then comes to you. So they've already studied all the possible illnesses which could have happened because of that one symptom that they're experiencing. Then they will study your treatment. Then they will study the side effect of every medicine. So information plays a very, very powerful role, not just on the mind, but also on the body.
Beautiful. So a lot of, our time and energy goes into thinking about the past. We waste worrying about the past. There's a lot of anxiety of the future and the madness of the present. So why and how should we balance these situations?
When we are creating negative thoughts and waste thoughts, the numbers will be high. The quantity and quality of thoughts is connected. When we're thinking pure thoughts, right thoughts, irrespective if the situation is not right, situation will not always be right for me. It may not be what I want. It is not what is called right. Also, the situation is not right. But my mind has to learn how to think right, even if the situation is not right. And so when I think right, the numbers are less. It's like if something happens today which is not my way, and I just have to create a thought, this is a situation, and I'm going to sail through it with ease, let me just begin. It's one thought. But if I say, why did this happen? How could this happen? This shouldn't have happened that way. We planned it this way. Now what will happen? What will happen tomorrow? It is 100 thoughts. So quantity and quality are always connected. we cannot reduce the number of thoughts. It's not something that I can put a counter and say, think less, think less. I cannot think less. I just have to start thinking right. And daily spiritual knowledge, which means content, that's again content, and a few minutes of meditation daily makes it very natural to think right. So why are we thinking a lot negative today? Because we're consuming a lot of negative content. But why? We don't call it negative, we call it normal. So whether it is we are consuming too much of what's happening in the world, even during COVID, media played a very important role in making us aware about COVID, making us aware about how to protect ourselves, it gave us complete knowledge, because sitting at home, we would have never even understood what is COVID, how we have to take care. So that was the very plus sign of media. Media connected us all. Media helped us to understand. Media guided us what we should do, where we should go. Everything was good. But then the other side was, which is the role of media. So it was not the fault of media. It's the role of media to tell us what's happening in every corner of the world, what's happening in every city of the country, and the crisis that the country and the world was going through, how many people were losing lives, what was the figure of COVID. That is also the responsibility of media. But if I, the consumer, keeps on consuming that, one is to have information and one is to just go on consuming that again and again and again. And so post-COVID, COVID is more or less a closed chapter, but post-COVID, fear and anxiety has gone from here to here, because billions of people on the planet created fear and anxiety during COVID. So it's just the vibration in the air. And most of us consumed lot of content in the sense information. So post-COVID, I'm finding a lot of people fearing life, fearing death. Pehle also people used to fear that what is my future? What if someone dies? That fear was there even before. But now it's at another level altogether. So without any problem in their life, without any issue, fear and anxiety is becoming a very predominant emotion. And second, some of them who lost a family member, yes, we know it's very difficult. It's a vacuum. But there is a period how much we can grieve, because if I grieve for very long, then it will become a sign of a depression inside me. But post-COVID, that grief period doesn't seem to be settling. So even after a year and a half, people are saying, I cannot sleep at night. They can just create a thought and they can start crying immediately. So we lost people earlier also. We've lost our family members now. But the way people would respond earlier and the way they're responding now is a little different. And so that is not healthy for them. That is not healthy for the people around them. That's not healthy for their children who are there around them. But they're saying, we don't know. We're not able to come out of it. हमसे ये हो ही नहीं रहा है. It's not that they don't want to settle. They want to. But वो हो नहीं रहा है. Why? Because suddenly there was so much grief and so much fear and so much information and so many emotions because of that information. So that's how much impact it can have on people. So media will give us the information. We take what is useful and what is needed. The rest is also important information. It's part of what's happening in the world. But I need to see how much I'm going to consume from there.